Has anyone ever lost their cell phone? It happened to me recently as Amy and I were preparing to host a dinner. With guests arriving in less than an hour and still needing to get food, I lost mine. Frantically, I retraced my steps around the house and searched in the usual hiding places, yet no phone. I began to look in more obscure places, such as drawers I never open, the car I never drive, and even the trash can. Amy, in her wisdom and watching me rummage through the trash, commented, Stop stressing. It'll turn up. Now go pick up the food." It would have been a good idea to listen to her at that point, but instead of dropping the issue, I came to Temple hoping that the phone would reappear in the office. I searched everywhere and still no luck. Not willing to give up, I headed outside. Maybe it dropped out of my pocket. So on my hands and knees, I combed the grass, scouring inch by inch with rocks scraping my knees, grass itching my ankles, and dirt plastered all over my clothes. I heard someone heading into Temple asking, "Is that the rabbi?" What in the world is he doing? Unable to pick myself up and restore some dignity, I continued hoping desperately that A, this all-important link to my life would pop up soon, and B, maybe from a distance, I might have been mistaken for one of the other rabbis. Well, the phone wasn't there, and I don't think it was very hard for those watching to determine it was me tilling the land. The phone and my self-respect were all but lost, and it could be debated whether either would ever come back. Thinking my pride could by no means take any more of a beating, I headed to pick up the meal. During this painful and lonely trip to the restaurant, I realized that I had completely blocked out what it was like before cell phones. Being at the restaurant and having no phone to respond to email, to check sports scores, or to play a random game was shamefully awkward. I returned home, resigned to this new existence, and welcomed guests obsessed with not having a phone. The night was a daze. I mentioned losing the phone 6 times throughout dinner. I left the dinner table on 2 occasions to send out an SOS for a new phone. And sadly, in this haze and misguided concern, I did not read bedtime stories to my kid, which is something I usually do. Ironically, in trying to locate the ultimate connector, my phone, I completely disconnected from living. The time to share in a good meal with friends. The time to enjoy great conversation with good people. And the time to spend quality moments with my kids was completely sacrificed. Being connected to a cell phone in today's world is not uncommon. It stores memories, our photos, videos, and much more. It connects us to people we care about. It engages us with the greater world. Yet when completely consumed by this or other things, what do we give up? What do we lose? And what do we never get back? While the sacrifices might seemingly be right under our noses, seeing what's actually missing in our life is not always easy to find. The novel called The Void expresses this idea quite creatively. The book centers upon a group of individuals searching for their missing friend who disappears suddenly. In explaining how the story unfolds, a book reviewer, Tom Gioa, states, "Here is the strange part. The reader, as they're reading it, starts to experience this queasy sense of a void as the book proceeds. Something just isn't quite right here. The uncanny quality is felt on every page." Now, what's missing beyond the title character? Within the entire 300-page novel, the author impressively never uses a word that contains the letter E. This means, in a story about a friend's disappearance, words such as love, togetherness, health, religion, fear, meaning, life, and death never appear. This becomes symbolic of the sacrifices we make, and especially the time, also a word containing the letter E, we lose when absorbed with insignificant things. Time to spend with a friend, a partner, or a family member. Time to do something we never could have imagined. Or time just to sit back and do nothing. A few weeks back, I was having lunch with a friend, and we began to discuss the American classic, Slaughterhouse-Five. I know, I'm a dork. Now, the book centers upon the fictional life of Billy Pilgrim and jumps randomly from past and present events or future events of his life. And at one point, Pilgrim is abducted by aliens from the planet Tremalfador and kept as a zoo exhibit for the planet's natives. Definitely an odd addition to the story, but it's within this alien world that Billy learns the following about Tremalfadorians. The universe does not look like a lot of bright little dots to the creatures of Tremalfador. The creatures can see where each star has been and where it is going. Tremalfadorians don't see humans as two-legged creatures. They see them as great millipedes with baby legs at one end and old people legs at the other. Tremalfadorians don't see humans as two-legged creatures. They see them as great millipedes with baby legs at one end and old people's legs at the other. Now, according to the fictitious Tremalfadorians, the millipede perspective asserts that life is a spectrum, bookended by birth and by death. Our charge becomes what we do with the time in between. Now, conversing with a member of our congregational family dealing with health issues, he said to me, "Rabbi, you might not want to hear this, but I'm going to die. It might take 6 days, might take 6 months, might take 20 years, but I won't be here much longer." On the surface, these words might seem shocking, or maybe even morbid. Yet the statement, "You might not want to hear this, but I'm going to die," is an observation for us to internalize. For whether mindful of it or not, we are born and we will die. Sometimes death might arrive sooner than we had hoped, and at other times come later than expected. This realization can make us uneasy, yet looking at life, aware of death's presence, can also provide us a window to live. For as the poet Nadine Stair shared, "If I had my life to live over again, I'd try to make more mistakes next time. I would relax. I'd be sillier than I have been on this trip. I would take fewer things seriously. I would take more chances. I would climb more mountains, swim more rivers. I would eat more ice cream and less beans. I would perhaps have more actual troubles, but I'd have fewer imaginary ones. I've had my moments, and if I had to do it all over again, I'd have more of them. In fact, I try to have nothing else, just moments, one after another, instead of living so many years ahead of each day. We realize life is finite. It comes to us especially on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur with the Unatana Tokef, the prayer we all know and half the time don't understand. See, on Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed, how many shall pass on, how many shall come to be? Who shall live and who shall die? Who by fire, by sword, by water, by earthquake, by plague? Believe me, we are not the first generation to struggle with these words. As kids, we are told that this speaks to the scales of life and death. Do good deeds, and the scales will balance in favor of life. And conversely, if we do wicked things, we will be punished by death. Yet this idea of reward and punishment is hard to believe, for we know innocent people die daily, and terrible people live full lives. Furthermore, we know that death is a component of life. And to equate it to simply one's virtues and sins minimizes life's complex realities. Thus, rather than tipping the scales of faith, the Unatana Tokef drives us to deal with our time in life, whether it's only for one more second or many more. See, recognizing our own mortality gives us time between life and death. It gives us time for courage rather than fear. It gives us time to be thoughtful rather than cruel. And it gives us time to act rather than abandon. Returning to the missing cell phone, at about 11 o'clock that night, our guests left. Still unable to reconcile the fact that the phone was gone, I decided, to the chagrin of Amy, to take a flashlight outside and see if the phone might pop up in the yard. Scouring around the lawn, moving the light slowly from left to right and back again, I quickly realized that this might not have been the best idea. Good ideas were not my strong suit that evening. I forgot to put shoes and socks on. Without shoes and socks, I was providing another meal, this time for the mosquitoes and other bugs of the night. So I went inside to solve at least one problem that evening. Now, my socks are housed in the top drawer of my dresser, the dresser upon which I usually place my phone, my wallet, and my keys. This evening, like many others before and since, the drawer was a little open. Not thinking too much as the time, I opened the drawer, looked down, and reached in to get a pair of socks. And there, sitting on top, staring at me, was the cell phone. Imagine the words that popped into my head to describe myself at this point. And Amy called out correctly some of them. Being preoccupied with things, even beyond a phone, such as the pressures with work, the worries at home, and the financial stresses, we sacrifice worthwhile time in our lives. We miss the time to hear a child's laugh to brighten a stressful day. We miss the time to be comforted by a tender embrace. And we miss the time to provide a supportive voice when someone close to us is in need. Or we miss the time to find a much-needed friend. These voids sit right in front of us. When we take hold of our lives, acknowledge those voids, and determine that time matters, we can find even greater meaning, fulfillment, and peace within it. So in this year, 5773, I encourage us all to take some time to laugh with someone, time to hug someone, time to simply say to someone, I love you. This Rosh Hashanah, our new year, pledge to make an appointment with life. Ken Yehi Ratzon.